Hi, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my matches from this weekend. First of all, on Saturday I went to Hayfield Lakes. Fantastic complex at Hayfield. Very underrated. I'm surprised that it's not as well attended all year round as it is probably in the summer. I mean, throughout the summer and spring and autumn it's brilliant, but in the winter people don't tend to go for the kart matches as much. And then when we run a silverfish match, we have some good attendances now and then, but if it's just an open, if it's not a league match or if there isn't anything special about it, it doesn't seem to be particularly well attended. So it was quite disappointing there wasn't a big attendance on Saturday, but nonetheless there was lots of good anglers there. I'm still sitting down in a very competitive match, which for me, trying to improve my match fishing all the time and learn from what I'm doing, that's really important, so I was happy with that. I drew peg 16 on a lake called Little Adams, which is a good area. I can't deny that. Little Adams is a good lake. There's lots of fish all over, and that area of the lake is reliable for bites. So I was pleased that I was in an area where I knew I was going to get some bites to start with. I plumbed up the peg, and it was really difficult to judge where to fish because I had a really strong wind in my face. And let me tell you, when you get a really strong wind either in your face or across you and the water's choppy, you'll find the fish will come closer than they usually will. So even though in the past I've liked to try and find sort of 8-9 foot of water, I tend to find that if it's a bit choppy I can probably fish a bit closer where it's probably a bit shallower. So when I plumbed up at about 10 metres, I had a nice depth of around 7.5 foot, and I felt that would be enough to fish, to catch silverfish regularly. Then I had a plumb up at around 14 metres, and out there it was probably more like 11 foot, that line is mainly for trying to catch bonus fish. The bonus fish in that lake, bearing in mind carp don't count, are things like Carasio and big skimmers, possibly a bream, big perch, even a big roach, chub maybe. So you have to feed that line thinking if you're going to ship all that way to 14.5 metres and wait for a bite, it wants to be a proper fish. So you have to judge how you're going to feed each line. I like to feed the closer line with some ground bait, soil and joker. The quantities tend to vary. Excuse me. Bad cold at the moment. Probably from sitting out fishing all weekend. But the quantities will vary. So this week I put around about 250 ml in. About 40% ground bait, 60% soil. And I put a few casters in the mix. And I potted that in at around, like I say, 10 metres. I'd set up, because the wind was so strong in my face, I'd set up a gram, a 0.8 and a 0.6, just because I felt that I might need the gram to swing the rig out, even though usually I'd fish like a 0.6. If you can't actually get your rig out properly to where you're fishing, it's no good to you. So all those you've got to use barbless hooks there, and I really do like PR412s for that sort of fishing. Fantastic fishing. When you're catching good roach and a chance of a bonus perch, those 412s are fantastic. The other good hook I like to use is a PR490, and I tend to use 1 or 2 bloodworm on those in an 18. So they were my hook choices for the day. You can use green gammers. The only thing I find with a green gammer for that sort of fishing, it's a little bit too negative. There's too many bonus fish, and I was bumping too many fish and trying to swing fish in. It's just not right. So I was happy with those hooks. And on the far line, I set up a 1.5 grams and a 2 gram. They both carried a 6 elastic, whereas the rigs on the near side had a 5 and a 4 on the lightest one. So I was completely covered with rigs. At the start, once I fed that short line, I fed the long line. Now, interestingly for me, I feed some fish meal on the long line, or what we term fish meal. Feed Sooner Baits F1 ground bait. Put a little bit of leam in it because it's deep and I want it to get down quickly. And then I put into that some casters and just a little bit of joker, just to see if you don't need a lot of joker when you're fishing out there for skimmers and that, but you have to try and judge it. Sometimes it can help to put lots in, but at the moment I don't think that's necessary. So I went with the lines fed. I thought, well, You usually have to wait an hour or so for it to really get going, but I'll go out and see what's there. And there was bites from the start. Fantastic, really. Small roach, ounce, 2 ounce, ever so difficult to get your rig in and fish in the wind. It was just a case of get your rig out, hold on, and when it was under, you know, nice and calmly lift rather than striking so your pole's not everywhere in the wind, but lift, bring your pole back, and then obviously you're swinging in these small roach. Just trying to keep everything tidy when it's windy like that. That's really important. So I had a good start, caught some nice roach. After about an hour and a half, I thought, well, I've got a 2-day festival next week. I'll try topping it up. Topped it up with 2 balls, wiped it stone dead. Next hour was absolutely horrendous. I topped up way too early. Definitely a mistake. I couldn't go on the long line because of the wind, really. So I persevered with the shorter line. And if I could have presented the bait properly, I would have caught a few, but it was really difficult. Then the fish started to come back, and I had a good hour or so, and with about an hour to go, I felt just one top-up ball would probably push me on for the last hour. And again, I didn't have a brilliant effect, to be honest. So I topped up with that one ball, and I kept catching, but I had a couple of bonus perch around £1, and I'd had a big roach around about £1 as well. So all of that was looking quite good. I'd seen, like, you know, some brilliant anglers like Alan Scottor and Ben Roberts next to me. They were all catching some fish, and young Frankie's always dangerous, and he was catching some fish as well. So I didn't really know what was going to happen at the weigh-in. So I was really pleased. I weighed 17.6. That was enough to win the match. Frankie came second with 15.12. He fished a good match. Obviously, those few bonus fish had swung it for me. So just single bloodworm, just on bottom, just off bottom, just changing it up a little bit. Every time I felt it went a bit quieter, I dropped on bottom with a couple of bloodworm, and one of my bonus perch came like that. So you've got to give yourself a chance to those bonus fish, and I think those bonus fish have been the difference from me coming maybe second or third to actually winning the match. So I was absolutely delighted to win the match, and that took me on to Sunday. So I'll post another vlog in a bit with Sunday's performance.